the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
17 seconds, high formation now. Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the end. It's caught! It's caught! It's caught! Touchdown official! Calvin Benjamin. Knowles retake the lead with 13 seconds remaining.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
And welcome back to another episode of the Lateral Live. I am Mike Settle. As always, that over there is Dustin Franklin. Dustin, how you doing, buddy?
And I'm ready. I'm doing well. I'm up and at 'em.
Yeah, man. It's kind of sad though. We're already at week 11. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Not a fan of the fact that the college football regular season is winding down, man.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. It's kind of one of those things. Don't cry because it's almost over. Smile because it's happening. Live in the moment.
Right.
Cherish what we got left.
Absolutely, man. We've got exactly 3 weeks of the regular season left. Man, these games are this week. I don't want to call it loaded, but the 3:30 time slot has a lot of like interesting, fun games. But it's not exactly like a plant your ass. Like you've got a window of opportunity around 12. You could probably get a few things done around the nighttime kicks, especially if you're not interested in like West Coast football or the Big 12. But 3:30 is an area of time. I always like to give window of opportunities. So if you got some stuff you want to do early in the day and then maybe go out to eat at night or something, with the TV on, wherever you go, that would probably be okay. 3:30 is definitely when I'd crowd around my TV though, or my TVs, because there's a lot of options.
Yeah, for sure. That's the meat right there.
Absolutely. Dustin, any news and notes? I didn't really see any. If you want to quickly review, I'll be honest with you, and we didn't do a whole bunch of pre-show prep. Last night's games were great. The rest of the slate was interesting. But if you have any thoughts on Maction or anything like that, we can do that, or we can get right to last night, which I thought had some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm 8-3 going into the weekend. So Tuesday and Wednesday were very kind. Thursday and Friday is where I picked up most of those 3 losses. But USC 3-2 at the end of the first quarter, and that's as close as it got. 55-17. Trojans looked great. ECU close, kept it close. They had a chance. Great stuff there. And then, of course, my running Rebs fell short last night, but that's okay.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Hey, that was tough. That game bugs me because I really just don't. I just thought UNLV was the better football team, and they still lost. Like it's really one of those weird games where the better team lost to me. As far as ECU Cincinnati, that was a really fun game, man. Came down to the very end, a little bit of a defensive slugfest there in the fourth quarter where nobody could really get it going. Cincinnati scored 3 points in the second half total, but it was enough. That's the thing. It was enough. ECU had to play from behind. I thought there were some interesting decisions made by Mike Houston and his staff in that game to kick extra points instead of going for 2 in certain spots. But, it didn't cost them the game, but it certainly could have cost them a game if you look at how much Cincinnati won by, which was 2 points.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely the game of the week as far as the weekday games were concerned.
Well, it was one of those things where whoever won had a really – well, if Cincinnati won, which they did, they're in second place in the conference. And then if ECU wins, all ECU needed was a UCF loss to be in second place. And UCF's got a pretty good shot to lose today. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Anything else from the weekday games, Dustin? If not, we'll move on and get ready to go.
Let's jump into it.
All right, buddy. Week 11. These noon games are but could be some interesting, juicy stuff happening here. 12 o'clock. Number 7, LSU versus Arkansas. This is a rivalry game. They play for the Golden Boot on ESPN. LSU, a 3-point favorite. We're going to get to that line a little later in the show. This is a game where LSU is coming off of a big win over Alabama. How big? We don't know because we don't really know if this Alabama team is what we thought it was coming in the season, but that's still a great win in that rivalry. Now you turn around, play another rival that's coming off a loss against a independent FBS team in Liberty. So very interesting matchup here. I think LSU is catching Arkansas in a really good spot where they're reeling, they're banged up. My only concern is the LSU run defense.
Yeah, I mean, last week you can't really judge either team too much,
Right?
Because, like you said, we don't know how good that Alabama or how bad that Alabama team really is. And that Liberty team is no slouch, so it's not like they were out here losing to UMass. But LSU has been on a tear lately. They're playing really well. Arkansas, that loss to Liberty, I don't see them coming back from that loss at home to Liberty and beating this LSU team just based on how LSU's been playing. Jaden Daniels, he's been playing phenomenal ball lately. I think he carries the team to a cover.
Yeah, I fully expect LSU to cover this game. Like I said, this feels like a really good spot for LSU to be getting this Arkansas team. Like a couple weeks ago, this game is more interesting, has some haymakers thrown, but I just think Arkansas is too banged up. I like LSU to win and cover. Fun rivalry game, though. These two teams always play each other really tough. One would tell you it's a rival, and the other one tells you it's not, which I love those kind of rivalries. Those make me very happy. Purdue, Illinois, ESPN2. Illinois is a 6.5-point favorite. Illinois is still ranked in the college football playoff rankings this week after losing last week. I was really high on Illinois. I like what Brett Bielema has done there. I love the way they run the ball. They play really good run defense. Pass defense is interesting. But this is a weird matchup to me where I feel like there's some stuff that Purdue does where they could take advantage of the Illinois defense.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are coming off a loss, but Illinois' defense is going to be the difference in this one to me. They're number one nationally in passing D, scoring D, interceptions, and first downs allowed. Given how inconsistent Purdue's offense has been, I mean, you never know from week to week which unit's going to show up. Give me the Illini to get the cover here.
Well, the reason I'm picking Illinois, one, you mentioned that pass defense, which I just flipped pass and run, which is my fault. But the reason I'm picking Illinois is because the inconsistency of Purdue all season long. Every time I pick them, they lose. Every time I don't pick them, they win. So I'm going with Illinois, and congratulations, Boilermakers. You're going to win this game now because every time I pick against you, you seem to falter. Look, this Purdue team is so inconsistent. If I'm Illinois, they need to win this game today because the Big Ten West is right there. Like, you've got to continue to win. That loss last week really put you in a spot where you can now lose the lead that you had. And, hey, it's only a couple weeks away. Like, we have 2 more weeks of games after this. Illinois is sitting nice in the Big Ten West race, but a loss here really makes it a mess. And I just, like, as much as I like chaos, I kind of just want Illinois to play Michigan or Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. Like, that's just kind of something I'd like to see, especially Brett Bielema. I mean, this is year 2, beat Wisconsin's ass. I think it's a fun football team. I don't know, man. I'm picking them, but I don't feel great about it just because inconsistency of Purdue. You never know which team's going to show up. Speaking of a jumbled mess, let's talk about the Big 12 for a second. Oklahoma, West Virginia, FS1. Oklahoma is an 8-point favorite. I'm just going to say this. I expect Oklahoma to win, and I like them to cover that spread. I think this West Virginia team is reeling.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma can get the bowl eligibility with a win, and West Virginia, they're eliminated from bowl contention with a loss. Oklahoma is 5-0 when holding teams under 165 yards rushing, and West Virginia averages 161 yards rushing per game. So give me the Sooners to win, but I do think that turnovers keep them from covering that 8 points.
I could see a sloppy game here on both sides. Like I mean, I don't love the West Virginia defense. We've seen them give up a lot of big chunk plays. I fully expect that to continue today. But guess who else gives up a lot of chunk plays? Oklahoma's defense. And so it could be just a really high scoring game, or maybe it's a low scoring game because of the sloppiness. We'll see. I don't really know why you have this on here. I guess it's because we're really pushing for the Huskies to get bowl eligible, but it's a fun game. Buddy, let me tell you something. If Jim Moore Jr. wins this game, build a statue outside the stadium. Let's talk about it for a second. Liberty, UConn, which, what the hell? CBS Sports Network. Liberty is a 14.5-point favorite. Here's the thing. We have to talk about Liberty because they're ranked. And rightfully so, especially after last week going on the road beating an SEC team. I just think this Liberty team has too much offensive firepower. Their defensive line is going to make problems for UConn. I think UConn will fight for a little while, but we watched that UMass game, buddy. That's not a very good football team, but they could get the bowl eligibility with a win. I don't expect that to happen today. Maybe next week. Give me the Flames.
Yeah, I'd love UConn to get to bowl eligibility here, but I do think they'll have to wait another week to get there. Liberty's coming off that win against Arkansas, but they are banged up, especially on offense. They did not walk out unscathed from Fayetteville there. So add to that, Liberty's defense, they're a stout unit. I actually UConn's defense is actually statistically pretty good. I know what we saw against UMass, but they're statistically pretty good. So I actually like UConn to cover. But give me Liberty to get the win.
I could see UConn
somewhere around 13 points. Not really close and sweating it out, but
well, that's what I was about to say. This looks like a backdoor cover if I've ever seen one. Yeah. Maybe like a late UConn field goal or touchdown or something like that to kind of make it look a little closer than it actually was. I like the Flames as well. Pitt, Virginia. This is yuck. All this whole game right here is just gross. ACC Network Pitt's a 4-point favorite. I don't like Virginia to score any points ever. Which kind of, last week they finally scored some points. That was interesting. I just think, look, I don't like this Pitt team either. I hate the way they play offense. It grosses me out. It just makes me so mad they went from having such a fun offense to having one of the worst ones to watch in all of college football. But the Pitt defense is the story and the key to this game. I like Pat Narduzzi's group to keep it going. Give me the Panthers because, buddy, I think Tony Elliott may be a 2-and-done. I may be way wrong about my man Tony.
Yeah, this is another game where one team can get to bowl eligibility and the other one is eliminated with a loss. Pitt's offense, they cannot find consistency. Outside of that North Carolina game, which, that's everybody's get-right game. So there's that. And then Virginia's offense is non-existent. So this game is going to be low-scoring and close and ugly. Give me the Panthers to win an ugly one.
I know I said this in the review show, but last week was the first time all season Virginia scored on their first offensive drive of the game. North Carolina's defense is bad, buddy. But it didn't matter. Stepped up when it had to. That's the funny thing. Yes, the ACC is out of this playoff race, but only because North Carolina doesn't have the schedule. If North Carolina were to run the table, win the ACC, have that one loss against a ranked Notre Dame team, if they had any other good win, like just one, I feel like they would at least be in the discussion, but they're not. But still, a man can dream. There's just a part of me that wants a team with that bad of a defense to make the college football playoff, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. That makes me really happy. I put this on here late. Tennessee, Missouri, CBS. Tennessee is a 19.5-point favorite. That's a big number against a feisty Missouri team.
Yeah, I know. It's feisty.
They are
Missouri
feisty,
team.
though.
I hear you. But and their defense is actually good. They're 19th in the nation in SP plus on defense. But I saw what happened last year, and this Tennessee team was not as good last year as they were this year. They hung 62 on them. They were up 45-10 at halftime. Tennessee's going to be coming out playing pissed off, inspired football, coming off a ugly showing against Georgia. Game's at home on Rocky Top. Give me Tennessee to roll cover because they're wanting to still fight back into that playoff contention spot.
Well, they should win every game on the rest of their schedule. There's no reason they shouldn't, and that will put them in a position to make the playoff. They've got the wins, so we think against good enough teams to have that resume even without winning the conference. I'll say this. If this Tennessee team is a playoff team, you won't let Georgia beat you twice. And now we've seen this a bunch where a team is hyped up, they have a big game, and they let the team beat them twice. It happens all the time. And I don't think Tennessee is quite at the level to just come out and roll early. Now, maybe they get rolling late. Like that I could see. I could see a close-ish game kind of early just because Missouri's like, hey, what the hell do we have to lose? We just extended our coach that's kind of mediocre. But I actually think this Missouri team is better than people think. I think ever since the Florida loss, they've kind of flipped a switch as far as just being kind of aggressive, nasty. They found out what they are. I like Tennessee to win. I think 19.5 is a big number. I'm not saying they won't win by 21 or 24, whatever, but I could see that being maybe a late cover by Tennessee. I think Missouri mucks it up a little bit, makes it a little gross for a while. Let's go to 3:30. Maryland, Penn State on Fox. Penn State's a 10-point favorite. Not a whole lot of analysis because this Maryland team is kind of reeling a little bit. I like Penn State to win. Covering is, I don't know. I have a hard time picking Penn State to cover against anybody.
Well, the weather last week killed Maryland's chances because they're a team that likes to throw the ball around.
Right.
And Talia is going to bounce back this week because the weather's supposed to be nice in Happy Valley.
Is he fully healthy? I didn't look it up before the game.
I don't think he's ever going to be fully healthy playing behind their offensive line. But Penn State's pass defense is a little sketchy. I know that sounds crazy, but against teams that can actually throw the ball, they're sketchy. Against Ohio State and against Purdue, they gave up over 350 yards through the air. Yeah. I do like Penn State to win, but I think Talia in the passing game keeps Maryland in it, and they cover.
This next game is lets me know exactly what Mike Gundy has going on there. Iowa State, Oklahoma State, ESPNU. Iowa State is a 1-point favorite. That lets you know that the mighty have fallen. I agree with that line. I actually think you can make it more. This Oklahoma State offense has just come out completely flat 2 weeks in a row. And if Spencer Sanders isn't in there, I don't give them any shot. I like the Cyclones to win because actually, one, they have a really good defense. So even if Spencer Sanders was playing, I fully expect Iowa State to show up and play decent defense. But if Spencer Sanders is not playing, I expect that the real key, Dustin, is which Oklahoma State defense do we get? The one from the first 7 weeks or the one we've seen the last 3 weeks? I think it'll be the one we've seen the last 3 weeks. I like the Cyclones to win.
Yeah, Iowa State, they're first in the conference in total defense, and Oklahoma State, dead last. All 3 Oklahoma State losses have been on the road this season, but I think this is where they stumble at home. Give me the Cyclones to send the Cowboys their 3rd straight loss.
Tough times there in Stillwater after we kind of hyped them up a little bit. Maybe we should not have done that. That's our fault. We take full responsibility. Right here. Just a whole lot of Vince McMahon. Ugh. Wisconsin, Iowa, FS1, Wisconsin's a 1.5-point favorite. Buddy, I know what I saw from Iowa last week, but I don't care. I'm taking the Badgers. Name your score.
Okay. I mean, ever since you called Kirk Ferentz to resign,
you're welcome.
Iowa's been putting some things together on offense.
You're welcome, Kirk.
But
you're welcome.
This Wisconsin defense is no slouch. I like what the Badgers have done since Jim Leonard has taken over. They've won 3 of 4. Give me the Badgers to win, but by a field goal or so, because I still believe in that Iowa defense. And even though the over-under is just 35.5, I'm tempted to take the under. Should be a defensive slugfest here.
Well, here's the thing. I really like that Iowa defense, too. You've heard me for weeks. It's the reason I called for Kirk Ferentz's job is because that if they had any kind of offense for a couple weeks there, dude, they could have beaten that Ohio State team. I watched that game almost down for down, and that Iowa defense really played well. I mean, they were confusing Ohio State up front. They weren't able to get anything going. If they paired that with any kind of offense, they would have been fine. And it's not like the Ohio State defense is the 85 Bears. Like, they're susceptible to giving up big plays. We've seen it now. So that made me so mad I had to call for Kirk's job. And by the way, I'm just going to take credit for this turnaround here on offense the same way that Kirk Herbstreit took credit for Mario Cristobal being hired by Miami. I mean, that's literally this is their moment. I kind of hope they just go and hire Jamie Chadwell, and that's all that's well. But they won't do that because they're idiots. I still like Wisconsin, man. I think that all of a sudden, if you've noticed, the Wisconsin offense has become explosive. Mm-hmm. That is, I wonder what was holding them back. I'm not blaming Paul Chris. I just don't know if it's a change in mindset. They run a little bit more tempo I've seen in the last few weeks. The Sparty game he's got to be kicking himself for that one. But I like the Badgers to win. Sorry, I'm all excited, hot and sweaty about the Big Ten. That's my fault. Let's talk about a game that's just bowling shoe ugly, as Jim Ross likes to say. Miami, Georgia Tech. This is on ESPN3 or Bally Sports for your local games there. Georgia Tech is a 1.5-point favorite. This line opened at 1. It's moved a half a point in the way of the Yellow Jackets. I like that number. I like Georgia Tech to win. There is nothing from this line, even with Ja'Cory Brown, who I think gives Miami more of a threat as far as the run game. You have more to account for. That offensive line is so banged up. Something that we know, that Georgia Tech defense is not that bad. They play really sound football. And I think Georgia Tech found a little something at quarterback too. So neither team has a whole lot to play for. I don't think either team is going to a bowl. So this is just kind of like who's got pride, who doesn't. I think Georgia Tech right now has got more pride. Give me the Yellow Jackets to win and cover, obviously.
Yeah, it's been a disastrous year one for Mario. I mean, that's an understatement. But the defense has been the bright spot. They're 33rd nationally against the run. They're 26th against the pass. Georgia Tech's defense is bad against the run. And with Van Dyke possibly being out, and if Brown's the quarterback, especially, Miami should just run. So I actually do like the Hurricanes to win outright. I know that's crazy to say because we saw both of these teams, what they did against Florida State. One played Florida State significantly better, tougher. One was on the road, one was at home. But I still like the Hurricanes to get the win.
Look, if Georgia Tech is able to put something together on offense, I think they're the better team. Like I just not the better not the more talented team, just the better football team right now at this current stage of the season because Miami's packed it in. Like now they could prove me wrong today by showing up and getting a win. But you talked about their defense. I expected their defense to play Florida State a lot tougher, buddy. They couldn't do anything. They, especially against the run, it just kind of looked like they didn't want to be there, which I was shocked by. Like I Florida State to win comfortably, but I didn't expect it to look like that. That was something, man. And if Georgia Tech's able to get something going on the ground today, it would not shock me at all for Georgia Tech to win. That's why I'm picking them. Plus, I need some different picks from you because I'm way behind, and I understand how that how that works. Here's a fun game in the Sun Belt. I love this game. They played last year where they weren't together in the Sun Belt. Now they're together. Fun game here. Appalachian State, Marshall, ESPN Plus. App is a 1-point favorite. App is coming off a loss against Coastal, kind of knocked them out of that Sun Belt race to get to the conference championship game. I still like App to win. I think their offense is too explosive. This Marshall, now the Marshall ground game with Kalen LeBourne, who we like, every week or so he seems to be on Player of the Week list, Player of the Month list, or whatever. So I think Marshall put up a fight. This is a quote unquote rivalry game. So I fully expect both teams to play really tough against each other. I just think the Mountaineers are too explosive on offense.
Yeah, not only is this a rivalry game, but it's also the 75 game for Marshall. They're going to be wearing special uniforms to pay tribute to the 75 people who died in the 1970 plane crash. And these two teams are perfect for each other.
Yes.
App State, solid on offense, terrible on defense. Marshall, bad on offense, but stellar on defense. This game, this App State team is going to be up for the challenge despite the 75 game. I think Kalen LeBourne, he's 4th in the nation in rushing yards, and he's going to get his. But I think the App State offense is just going to be too much for Marshall's defense. Give me App State to win by a touchdown.
I am interested to see if Marshall's defensive line gets after Chase Price. That will be if Marshall wins, I think that will be the reason. It's because they make him uncomfortable all game, kind of like Coastal's defensive line did for most of the third quarter there. All right, let's move on. 7 o'clock, SEC, here we go. Georgia, Mississippi State, ESPN. Georgia's a 16-point favorite. I just don't love this Mississippi State offense like I should. For a couple weeks there, you were right. We could count on them to be a walking 21. Buddy, there ain't a walking 21 this week. And I don't, man, I think this Georgia team finally decided, we're going to stop playing with our food a little bit. Now, they could go down a little bit here today because they're coming off a big emotional win. This game is on the road. Clinga, that annoying-ass cowbell. I'll have to have that game on mute. I can't watch those Mississippi State home games because I hate the cowbell noise. I like the Bulldogs to win and win big. I just this Georgia offense has become explosive. Stetson Bennett, he's just good. There's no caveats to it. He's just a good college quarterback now. They've got weapons galore, especially at tight end. And the Georgia defense. Look, an average defense will struggle against a Mike Leach offense. This is not one of those. This is a really good Georgia defense. Man, I had a thought earlier this week. Imagine being in that defensive staff meeting and you've got Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp bouncing ideas off each other. That is just, I'm jealous. I want to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. Shout out to Will Muschamp. I love that guy. If Tennessee couldn't get going against Georgia, I don't believe Mississippi State's going to be able to, especially after needing overtime against Auburn last week. Give me the Bulldogs to win by 20+. That defense is just too much.
I agree. I just don't think the offense of Mississippi State. Now, if you're a Georgia fan, you just kind of have to hope that they don't sleep like they did against Missouri or some of the earlier games in the year. You just have to get that out of your mind. I think the Georgia team has flipped its switch. It's ready to go into the playoff hunt here. 7:30, North Carolina, Wake Forest, ESPN2. Wake is a 3.5-point favorite. That's got to be just because of the North Carolina defense. I'm going to be honest with you. This Wake team does not take care of the football. And I think that's what kind of scares me off picking them and taking them to win and cover. I'm riding Drake May till the wheels fall off, baby. Like, I know they have the loss against Notre Dame, but that's it. They've won every other game that they've played, and that's because Drake May and that offense is so fun, so explosive. Josh Downs is fully healthy. I think wrong team's favored. I like the North Carolina offense to score a lot of points against the Wake defense, who's kind of reeling. And now, cure for the common offense, the North Carolina defense. We know that. So, but are they able to create the same turnovers that every other defense has the last few weeks? Maybe not, but I just expect a good old-fashioned Big 12 style shootout, which I think the Heels get the win.
Last season's matchup between these two teams featured 113 points and 1,200 yards of offense.
Sam Howell that was a crazy game from Sam Howell.
It was. The over-under being at 77.5 in this one is perfect. This game's going to have offense galore. We got two stud quarterbacks and two suspect at best defenses. Listen, I can see this game going either way, but I'm gonna roll with the future first round quarterback.
There
Drake
you go,
May,
baby. There you go.
And my fellow Tennessean Mac Brown to get the win.
fellow 4 State Seminole Mac Brown. That's what you meant to say. Graduate of the Florida State University, Mac Brown. Don't forget, he's never beaten his alma mater. Don't forget that either, including Mike Norvell. 2-0, baby. All right.
God.
Did I say some wrong information there? Was anything false information? I'm sorry. Did I say anything that was
right?
False? Thank you.
Let's just keep it going.
Okay. It's also at 7:30. Ooh, fun game here, baby. Texas A&M, Auburn on the SEC Network. Auburn, a 1.5-point favorite. And I agree with that line because this A&M offense, without their starting quarterback, is butt. Now, if he comes back, if Connor Wegman is playing in this game, which I haven't seen anything come out yet, but I tried to look for it this morning. I couldn't find it. If Connor Wegman plays, I think A&M's got a good shot to win. But I don't know. I think the Auburn team is playing really hard. We saw that last week. I expect them to run the ball in the same way that Florida did last week on A&M. So I fully expect a very similar situation where I think A&M plays hard for a while and then Auburn gets a win. I like Auburn to win. I think the right team's favored there.
Yeah, listen, I'm rooting for Cadillac Williams. It means a lot for him to be the interim head coach at Auburn, and I would love for him to get the gig full time. Now that that's out of the way, eventually all that talent on A&M's roster has to be a deciding factor in a game, right? I think it's going to be this one. I know it's going to be a rowdy crowd in Jordan-Hare, but a loss means the $100 million man Jimbo Fisher's team misses a bowl game. I just can't believe that he's going to let that happen. So give me the Aggies outright in a game of inches.
Okay, man, just play right there. Dustin, you just get one little inch and boom, it's out the gate. That's every Jimbo play in his playbook. Hey, just one more little thing and boom, it's out the gate.
Yeah.
No, Jimbo, it ain't out the gate. It hadn't been out the gate all season for Texas A&M offense. Now, I will say, if Wegman plays, I like your pick. I think it's a good pick. The problem is, I think this Auburn team is playing really hard for Cadillac Williams. You talked about how you want him to get the head job. I don't think he will, and I don't think he's ready.
Yeah, I don't think he will either. But
I'm going to tell you, he should come with the furniture. Kind of like Odell at FSU. I think whoever gets that job should retain Cadillac Williams on staff.
I think Wegman's playing.
Ooh, I might have to change my pick. Here. Live on the air, I'm changing my pick. Give me the Aggies. The bowl hopes of Jimbo Fisher is still alive, but they're gonna come crashing down on Thanksgiving weekend because LSU's gonna beat that ass. Man, Brian Kelly and Jimbo Fisher meet again. Good times. I'd run that same pick play over and over again if I were Brian Kelly. All right, let's talk about the late kick here. San Jose State, San Diego State, FS1. This is 10:30. I just think San Jose State's a better football team in the driver's seat to win the Mountain West, or the Mountain West, as I like to call it, because they're terrible out there. But I think the Spartans is like the best of the bad. So I like San Jose State to win the game. I just don't trust the San Diego State offense enough.
Yeah, San Jose State, they're great against the run this season,
Yes.
and that's how San Diego State wants to play. They want to run the ball. So it's a bad matchup for there. Also, Siobhan Cordero, he's an electric playmaker. I think he's going to give the Aztecs defense fits, especially considering how bad San Diego State has been against the pass. So he's going to be able to move around the pocket and make some explosive plays. Give me the Spartans to get that cover.
Hope San Jose State enjoys their coach while they have him, because I don't think it'll be a whole lot longer. All right, let's talk about some more in-depth. Hey, there's no in-depth games at the noontime slot. That's what I was trying to say. The only reason there's really one that's late is because one involves one of our favorite teams in the country, and the other involves the team we pull for. So, again, that 3:30 window is really your meat on the bone. But let's talk about it here. 3:30, Louisville, Clemson, ESPN. Clemson is a 7-point favorite. Buddy, this game is interesting. Very interesting after Clemson's loss last week to Notre Dame.
Yeah, Clemson's playoff chances, they're all but done. So what does that mean for this team? Will they come out flat? Are they going to keep fighting and try to convince the committee that they're worthy? Louisville, on the other hand, they've responded beautifully to Scott Satterfield. After the 2-3 start, you had the rumblings of him being fired, and they've been playing really well. And they've been doing it starting with the defense, forcing turnovers, something that Clemson has struggled with lately. But Clemson's still a very good team, and they're still the cream of the crop in the ACC. And this game is in Death Valley. Give me Clemson to win, but I don't know about cover, and I think 7 is a great number.
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, this is a this is a little bit of a get-right game for Clemson. They were playing with fire for a couple weeks, and they got burned last week against Notre Dame, a team that was, that game was on the road at night, a lot of miscommunication stuff. Clemson, for the first time in a while, had to take one of those those timeouts because they weren't ready. Like, just a really sloppy game by Clemson. This game's at Death Valley. It's the perfect time slot, 3:30. Dude, there's like a weird stat that they're like 48-1 in their last 3:30 kicks at home. Like, that's insane to me. And I look, a lot of those precedent stats don't mean a whole lot, but I think it does here, because I think this is a get-right game. I fully expect DJU to play a little bit better than he has. I don't love the Louisville defense, but they're doing something that's kind of a statistical anomaly, and that's creating turnovers. Mm-hmm. And if they're able to do that today, then this game could get interesting, because I'm going to tell you something. The Louisville offense goes as Malik Cunningham goes. If he's rolling and running around and doing Mar Jackson type things, then this game is going to get really fun and really interesting. I just think the Clemson defense that we've seen most of the season decides to show up today. I like the Tigers to win. I don't feel good enough about Louisville to pick them, but it would not surprise me at all for Louisville to go in there and get – could you imagine Scott Satterfield goes from basically wanting to be fired to looking at being ranked next week? Like, that's what we're looking at here. Louisville's losses are what? Syracuse and Florida State? Buddy, that's doing some things. That's every reason to keep a guy, which, by the way, he has a recruiting class inside the top 20. So that also interesting to look at. It went from being on our hot seat to being maybe an extension. Whew, tough times there in Louisville, because I don't really think they want to extend him. But you can't fire a guy that's looking at maybe playing for an ACC title. You can't do that. All right. This game's going to tell us a lot. Not about Ole Miss, because I think we know what Ole Miss is. This game's going to tell us a lot about Alabama and them going forward. Alabama, Ole Miss on CBS. Alabama's a 12-point favorite. That line's a little big to me, because I don't know what Alabama offense that Vegas has been watching, but okay. But we don't love the Ole Miss defense either, so I guess I understand. I'm going to throw to you first. I just want to say outright right now, Alabama has to hire 2 new coordinators. They need a defensive coordinator, Pete Golding stinks, and they need an offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien stinks. Saban knows that. He's not going to say that publicly, but he knows that. They're getting demoted, or they're getting out of the building there in Tuscaloosa as soon as the Black Friday weekend is over.
Yeah, listen, it's no secret I've got a soft spot for Lane Kiffin. He's my favorite coach in all of college football. But Nick Saban, after a loss, is always dangerous.
Yes.
Bama's in uncharted territory. Listen, for just the second time since the playoffs became a thing, they are not going to feature the Crimson Tide.
Right.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
The Ole Miss defense, they've been bad lately. They've allowed 70% or better completions in 3 of the last 5 games, and they give up chunk runs. So Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, they're going to have their way. Now, Ole Miss is still in the mix for the SEC West title, and they've got a sliver of hope for the playoffs, believe it or not. If they win out and LSU gets drops another game,
absolutely,
they're right there.
Absolutely.
They'll need to do what they do best, which is run the ball to have a chance at beating Bama. LSU averaged over 5 yards per carry against the Tide, and that's how they won. Ole Miss leads the conference in rushing. But unfortunately, I just don't see Ole Miss being able to stop Bama on defense. I think it's going to be a fun game, but give me the Tide to win in a close one. I do think Ole Miss covers.
If Ole Miss is able to create turnovers early, I think the game's interesting because I feel like then that Ole Miss defense starts to play with a little confidence. And we don't love the Alabama offense. They don't have receivers to get separation. They run the ball well with Gibbs, but they need to get a little more creative with Gibbs. They need to use him in the passing game, short passes, screen passes, because he's really hard to bring down in the open field. So they need to get him more involved the best that they can. And they need to let Bryce Young kind of play free. Not like use his legs because he's not like this, Lamar Jackson style quarterback, but I would run him a little bit. Make Ole Miss account for his legs because I think now we haven't seen that all year. This offense is pretty by the book, which is crazy to me just considering the caliber of athletes they have. The Alabama offensive line is okay. It's not great. It's not bad. It's okay. But they're going against an Ole Miss defense line that I really don't trust to be able to stop the run for 4 quarters. I like Bama to win. I don't like Bama to cover. And I think Ole Miss is going to really play inspired football. This is a game that Lane Kiffin really wants to win. Like you just know deep down, he circles it. He wants to beat Nick Saban. He wants to prove he's just as good of a coach as Nick Saban. If he was ever going to beat Alabama, this is the year. This is the time. They're a wounded animal. What does that mean? Do they stay wounded or do they bite back? I like the Tide to bite back a little bit, but I got to be honest with you. I don't feel good about it, Dustin. Something's off with this Alabama team. People have called for into the dynasty after every loss. That's not the case. This year feels different. It feels if Saban doesn't make the right coordinator hires in the offseason, then we really could be looking at the end of an era. But if he does, things will get rolling again. Like I have no doubt about that. They have the best players in the country. But there is something wrong there in that locker room. I wonder if it's complacency or I'm not really sure what it is. But it could all go away today. Yeah. You say Alabama's out of the playoff race. I'm going to lay a scenario for you. Hold on. I agree with you, but I'm going to lay a scenario for you. How many losses does Alabama have right now?
2.
How many? Okay. Guess who LSU plays today? Arkansas, a team that we think that LSU will beat. But what if they don't? Then they have the head-to-head, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Alabama beats Ole Miss today. They've got SoCon Saturday next week. They've got Auburn at the end of the year. Well, LSU, let's say they get upset today. Okay. That takes LSU out of the playoff race, but still in the driver's seat to make the SEC championship game. LSU at the end of the year, fighting Aggies. Just throwing that out there. If Auburn, if Alabama wins out and LSU suffers 2 more losses, buddy, Alabama is going to the SEC championship game with 2 losses. The same thing they're talking about LSU has. I'm just telling. Okay, so
you got USC, you got TCU, you got Clemson. There's more teams that, yeah.
The SEC champion is getting in. That I will say.
Okay, sure. So but Alabama's not beating Georgia, regardless.
No. I agree. But what if they do? Because that's going to make so many people mad. Because guess what? At that case, Tennessee's left out. A team that beat Alabama.
What if Anna de Armas took my hand in marriage? Life would be grand, but
I hope she does.
Things just don't work out that way.
You say that, but there is an actual realistic scenario where they do still make the SEC championship game because I don't trust this LSU team to be just this dominant force. Like we saw the blowout loss to Tennessee. We saw that game happened. So I think that game is in them. Sorry to ramble, but I just thought that was interesting that you said they were out of the playoff race. Not quite now. A loss today, absolutely. But a win today keeps them just looking at it from the overhead. Like they're a drone and they're flying over the playoff. Yeah, I see y'all down there having fun. I could come in and ruin this thing anytime I want. I don't think they're out of it completely yet, as much as that makes people mad. Let's talk about the biggest game in the American Athletic Conference this season. UCF, Tulane, ESPN2. Tulane is a 1.5-point favorite. If game day weren't in Austin, this would have been the game they went to. I fully believe that. This is the biggest game in Tulane history, to be honest with you, as far as at home anyway. You know, they had like Cotton Bowls and Sugar Bowls way back in the 60s and 70s. But this is the biggest game in modern Tulane history. Look, I don't trust Gus Malzahn's offense to do enough to win this game.
Yeah, this is 2 top 3 defenses in the conference. Tulane's got the first ranked defense in the conference. UCF has the third. Now, UCF, they're also first in the conference in yards per game on offense. So I hear you. About Gus's offense, but they're leading the conference in yards per game.
Right.
Tulane's got their work cut out for him. John Rice Plumlee, he's a game time decision as he battles back from concussion, but backup Mikey Keene, he may be a better option anyway, at least through the air.
I think so.
He can throw the ball.
I think so.
Yes. He was stellar last week in that win against Cincinnati. The Tulane secondary, they've been on a bit of a slide as of late, not playing as well as they were earlier in the season. As much as I love this Tulane team, it comes down to who do I trust. And even though UCF has been inconsistent this season, they're a more reliable program overall. Give me the Golden Knights to get the win.
All right. Everything you said, complete truth. But this game at home, the largest crowd the stadium has ever seen. It's only like a 4-year-old stadium. It's beautiful. It's going to be rocking. There's a lot of people in town. Tulane has the chance to, if they win this game and they win the rest of their games, they're going to the New Year's Six game. There's no doubt that they'll be over Coastal, over anyone else in the G5. This is the season to make it happen. I think all of that makes Tulane play with their hair on fire. And you talked about the UCF offense. Look, I'm not saying they can't make explosive plays, but the UCF defense actually shocked me last week by giving up so many against Memphis. A game that Memphis could have easily won. You know, Memphis does that every week where they like make it real close, and in the fourth quarter they kind of like, oh, okay, I guess we're done here. We're not going to play the fourth quarter. So that's kind of what happened last week again. I just think this Tulane team is too good on defense. I think they make it ugly. I think people that are expecting a high-scoring game could be in for a letdown. I kind of like both defenses in this game. I think the Wave do enough. Roll Wave, baby. Give me Tulane at home. New Orleans is going to be rocking tonight because Tulane, the Green Wave, has a chance to go to a New Year's Six bowl game for the first time in about 50 years. That is incredible. They have to be kicking themselves for that loss against Southern Miss, buddy, because that could have led to an undefeated season. Now, there's still some games to play. Still got some games here that'll make it interesting. Let's go to 4 o'clock. South Carolina, Florida, SEC Network. Florida's an 8-point favorite. I don't like the South Carolina offense. Give me the Gators to win and cover. That's my analysis. I hate the South Carolina offense a lot.
Yeah, Florida's riding high right now.
Yeah.
Fresh off of beating down Texas A&M. They also just flipped a very talented and coveted quarterback recruit from Miami and Jalen Rashada. South Carolina, they're just flat out bad against the run, and that's what Florida does best. Now, Florida's defense is bad all around, so I do expect South Carolina to get some things going. But I like the Gators to outlast the Cox. Give me Florida, but I wouldn't touch a spread, though.
Yeah.
But I do like the over 58.5.
I kind of joked about Florida and the point. Like, I don't actually feel that way, but, like, this just feels like a game that Florida's going to win.
Yeah.
And by the way, big recruiting weekend in Gainesville. Like, there's a lot of good talent going to be there. So this is a game that Florida needs to win. But it's also a game, if you're South Carolina, you kind of look at like, yeah, we were ranked for about a week there. Then we kind of lost our footing. This could be a get-right game for them because I think both, like you said, both defenses against the run are really bad. I'm interested. The only thing about Florida, and by the way, I do think they're much better than people thought they were. The only thing about Florida that I'm worried about, Dustin, is that A&M team they played last week was a bunch of 3rd and 4th stringers at a lot of positions. So I'm really curious to see if that's just like a, like a little blip where the offense really comes to life and explodes, or does that continue against South Carolina today? I'm interested to see. I still like Florida to win, though. I'm picking Florida to win because I think they're the better football team. You can't lose this game if you're Billy Napier. This is a game you got to go get. Especially with all those recruits in town. Should be interesting, though. I'm going to be watching. 7 o'clock, big game right here, buddy. Big game. Both of our narratives meeting right here. Washington, Oregon, rivalry game. Big rivalry game. These two teams hate each other. Great uniform matchup on the field. This game is on Fox at 7 o'clock. Oregon, a 13.5-point favorite. Bo Nix is playing Heisman-level football right now, man. He is slinging that thing. I know they had a little bit of a shaky start last week, but they got it right. No big reason to sweat. This Oregon team that people thought were out of it because of the Georgia loss, I think if this Oregon team wins out, they have a legitimate shot to make the college football playoff and have a chance at redemption against a Georgia team that beat their ass in week 1. I think the Oregon offense is too explosive.
Yeah, this is a tough stretch of the schedule for Oregon. You got number 25 Washington this week. You got Utah next week. This is tough. Yeah. They can't afford to look ahead against a solid Huskies team. Washington has the number 1 passing offense in the nation. In Oregon's passing defense, 118th in the nation. So this is a tough game.
High-scoring game I could see.
Bo Nix is going to need to continue being this year's Bo Nix. He cannot have a slip up and regress to his old self. This season, he's completing 73% of his passes, taking care of the ball, not turning it over. He's very much in the mix for the Heisman conversation. I think he's going to be the difference here. Washington's going to score, and they're going to keep it interesting, but Nix is going to lead the Ducks to a close victory. Sidebar, Washington is 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 games. But I do think that they cover here. I think they cover that 13.5.
Yeah, 13.5 is a little big because I kind of expect a high-scoring game. I think the interesting part of this game is Oregon's run offense. Like, I think if they're able to get the ground game going, I think it could be, well, not lopsided because I still think Washington covers. But I think if Oregon's able to control the game on the ground, they don't have to worry about the Washington pass defense or worry about Bo Nix singing the thing around. The reason that they did a couple weeks ago against UCLA is because they had to. I don't know in this game if they'll have to. It'll be interesting, though. And by the way, Bo Nix is mobile, too. So I would make Washington account for his legs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Big 12. Kansas State, Baylor, FS1. Baylor is a 2.5-point favorite. I agree with that line. This Kansas State offense has shut down completely almost after Will Howard took them to new heights. That they should just keep Will Howard in as a starting quarterback because Adrian Martinez has reverted to his Nebraska form. And I actually think this Baylor team is better than we thought they were a month ago. 100%. Their offense looks good. I love Blake Shippen. Their defense has come to life under Dave Aranda, who's a defensive guru. I like the Bears to win. I like them to cover. I don't think that Kansas State offense is just explosive enough to do anything.
Yeah, Baylor's defense is second in the conference this season, but they're far from perfect. They gave up over 500 yards to Oklahoma, over 500 yards to West Virginia recently, and Kansas State's offense has been playing well lately, depending on which quarterback to go with, which I know that's a hot button for you. As long as the Wildcats don't turn the ball over, they could very well win this game. Games where they turn the ball over more than once, Texas and TCU, Kansas State lost.
Yeah.
Baylor has forced 10 turnovers in their last 3 games, and on offense, Baylor's got to establish a run. They're 5-0 when they rush for at least 170 yards. I think they do both this week. I think they force turnovers and run the ball all the way to a win by a touchdown.
One more game here in the Big 12. My narratives combine right here, go head-to-head. Kansas, Texas Tech on ESPN+. Texas Tech is a 3.5-point favorite. Not quite sure why. Really like what Kansas is doing. I know that Bean isn't quite the quarterback that Jalen Daniels was, but the offense got off the snide last week, scored a lot of points. I know the Kansas defense is a big issue, but so is the Texas Tech defense. I think this could be an old-fashioned Big 12 game, which will be fun for some people and not so fun for others. I'm going with the better coach. And I love Joe McGuire. I do. I think he's going to get Texas Tech right. He's got a good recruiting class coming in. Everything I said in the offseason is still true. Wreck 'em, baby. But I'm taking Kansas and Lance Leipold in this game.
Yeah, Texas Tech struggles against teams that run the ball well. All 5 of their losses have come when they've allowed over 100 yards rushing on the ground. Enter Kansas. They're going to get over 100 yards rushing. They run the ball really well. Devin Neal had a huge game last week on the ground and catching the ball. He had 334 total yards. Jason Beam, he can run the ball well as well. This is just a matchup problem for the Red Raiders. I love what McGuire's got going on in Lubbock. I'm sorry for doubting him. But Leipold is doing an even better job in Lawrence. Give me the Jayhawks to get the win on the road.
Long term, I'll take Texas Tech as a program. But in this game, 100% going with the Jayhawks.
Well, same, because I don't think Leipold will be there long term.
Yeah, yes, but I also just think that McGuire's building good infrastructure, stadium renovations, new practice facilities. He's got everyone bought in, and he has a top, 10, 12 recruiting class right now at Texas Tech, and their NIL has decided we're going to spend a bunch of money. So interesting times there in Lubbock. In the middle of nowhere, Texas, they may get something going, which I think is really fun for the sport. Let's go to Florida State because we'll come back to what I think is the game of the week. FSU, Syracuse, ACC Network, FSU a 7-point favorite. This game is on the road for the Noles. Look, Syracuse is banged up. Even if Schrader plays, they're banged up in a lot of other positions. I think their offensive line has a lot of injury issues right now. Their defensive line has a lot of injury issues. I expect that to be a big problem for Syracuse in this game. I like Florida State's defensive line, especially with Fabian Lovett back, fully healthy. And I expect the running game that traveled down to Miami last week to travel up to Syracuse, New York this week. I fully expect them to pound the ball, shorten the game, give Jordan Travis easy throws, which he didn't have to have easy throws. I think they're going to give him easy throws. I expect Jordan to be able to run some today too. I just think there's too much for Syracuse to account for. I like this Florida State team to win. I like them to cover. A couple weeks ago, I would have picked this game completely different. I think even if Schrader plays, I like Florida State to win by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, listen, Cuse on a 3-game skid is not what we wanted to see.
No, that's interesting. Yeah,
you never want to face a well-coached team that's on a skid like that, especially on the road. But Syracuse's D-line is they're banged up, man. They're not healthy at all, and that's bad news for them. Trayshawn Ward's also going to be back. More bad news. So add another stud running back. They've been holding their own without him, and he was the starter. So that's bad news for Syracuse. The main reason I don't like Syracuse here is because for whatever reason, they're not giving Sean Tucker enough touches.
Yeah.
Even though starting quarterback Garrett Schrader has been hurt, he still only has 45 carries over the last 4 games. That is absurd. Florida State's defense is solid against the run, but if they feed 34, I think they've got a better shot.
Yeah.
But I think Florida State's trending up. They've got a more talented roster, so the Orange's woes are going to continue. Give me FSU to get the win by 14 on the road.
Isn't it interesting? I think I saw a stat Monday that the run defense with Fabian Lovett as a starter is like almost a 4 yards per carry difference against teams running the football. That is absurd that one player just makes it. You have to account for him in not one gap, 2 gaps. That's how much of a difference Fabian Lovett makes. Yeah, that's real nerdy football stuff, but that stuff matters when it comes to a team that's playing a little bit above its head right now. Now, look, we did this show last year too, where we couldn't talk about Florida State as just being a pretty good football team. I think they're actually a pretty good football team this season. I really do. There's a reason the committee has them ranked. I just think Florida State's better. I really do. Now, a couple weeks ago, I would have loved to see these 2 teams play against each other fully healthy, because I think it would have really showed me what Mike Norvell and his staff are capable of. But I don't think we're going to get to see that on full display. In 2 weeks, we will, though. I think the Florida game is spicy. A little spicy rivalry there. Let's go to the game of the week, though, at least in my opinion. Number 4, TCU. Number 18, Texas. This game is in Austin at night. ABC, Texas, a 7-point favorite. A lot of people think that Vegas is high. I don't, because, look, guys, spreads aren't almost about who you think will win. Spreads are more about who has the better roster. And just top to bottom, Texas has a better roster of talented players from recruiting standpoint. And that's where Vegas kind of gets its spreads from. I think people misunderstand spreads quite a bit. So Texas being favored, no shock to me, especially because they went toe-to-toe with Alabama and lost. We know why. This TCU team is playing, as I've said all year, with a horseshoe up its ass. It's gotten lucky in certain, and you need that to have an undefeated playoff season. My question to you, I think I know where you're going to go. Does the luck run out today?
Come on.
I know
where I'm going.
But I had to ask.
Hook 'em.
Oh, my God. This man went and bought a Texas hoodie.
Hook 'em.
Get out of here.
I've had this hoodie. Sonny Dykes, he's done an amazing job, and Max Duggan's playing lights out. But again, I say Bijan Robinson is the best running back in the country, and he's going to prove it again here today. TCU does have a stout defense. They're fourth in the nation, so it won't be easy. But I think TCU's luck is going to run out this week. That's what it is. TCU hasn't allowed 200 yards rushing in a game all season, but Texas has reached that mark 3 of the last 4 games. TCU's only turned the ball over multiple times in 2 games this season, and both times were on the road against Big 12 rivals. I think both of those things are going to happen. Texas is going to hit 200 yards rushing. They're going to force a couple turnovers. They're going to get the close win.
This is a weird game because I think if you're TCU, you can flip the script where you're kind of, you're the hunted because you're the higher ranked team. But the last few weeks where TCU kind of plays with its food a little bit early is because they're getting teams' best shots. And I think if you're TCU, you have to treat this game like they still think Texas is better than you. They got them favored by a touchdown over you. They don't respect you. Your little brother, blah, blah, blah. The pregame speech is easy for Sonny Dykes. If his team gets off to a hot start, I think TCU can pull away. I really do. But because I haven't really liked what Quinn Ewers has done the last few weeks. I know they tried to get Xavier Worthy the ball a lot, but I would, like you just said, feed Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs in the country, maybe the best running back in the country. When they feed him, they get over 200 yards, like you said, they win football games. And they got a big win last week against Kansas State. This game was hard to pick because to me, I know the spread is 7, but I think it's a pick 'em because I think we get the TCU team from a couple weeks ago that played Oklahoma that just went in and was inspired. They got off to a hot start and never looked back. I can expect that TCU offense to do something similar today. The difference maker to me is which team is able to provide a pass rush. I don't really love either one of them to get a good pass rush in this game, but whatever team creates one, I think will win the football game. I actually, just because I need to go different from you, give me the Horned Frogs to continue their winning ways. And I doubted TCU coming into the year. You know I did. But turns out I was wrong. I really like what Sonny Dykes has done there. Could it just be, and I know you like Steve Sarkisian, and I like Steve. Like I like him as a coach. Who's got the better staff here?
I mean, I think it's clearly TCU.
Me too. Now, fun fact, Gary Patterson is now on the Texas sideline playing his old team. You know that's got to just be that's an interesting little tidbit because those former players at TCU, a lot of those guys don't like Gary. I think that's pretty clear considering how inspired they're playing this year compared to how they did last year. And now he's wearing burnt orange, which is something he spent his entire career fighting against. He hated Texas. Now he works for Texas. Interesting stuff there. Fun rivalry that I hate to see going away because of Texas's big move over there to the SEC. I hate that because this game's going to go away, and that sucks. But while we have it, we got to enjoy it. I like TCU to win outright because Texas is favored in this weird, bizarre world we call college football. Dustin, anything else before we get to our quick locks of the week?
No, let's do it.
All right, baby. Here we go. Locks of the week.
Lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up.
I just love that clip. I have to play it every time now. I love Wedding Crashers. All right, Dustin, I'm going to throw this up here. Let's talk a little bit about our locks of the week. Here we go. Me, here I am. I have Baylor, 2.5. Tulane, 1.5. And LSU, I'm taking all the favorites to win and cover their spreads there. You have A&M to win outright, which we talked about. I flip my pick as well. App State, you like them to win and cover. And you got Miami, wrong team's favored, Dustin says. The Hurricanes to win.
Yeah. I mean, A&M and Miami, you could just take money line, take whatever's the better odds there. But if you don't feel comfortable with them winning outright, I still think they'll lose by less than 2. So take those.
Yeah, let's throw that back up real quick. Look, I talked about Baylor winning. I think Baylor pulls away at some point. Like, I like Baylor to win that game. I really like Tulane even. I love that we got some opposite picks this week. Last few weeks, we've been having too many similar picks. We needed this. And by the way, I kind of like – I predicted Arkansas to make it ugly for a little bit, but I fully expect LSU to cover that 3-point spread. That felt like easy money to me. I was like, all right, Vegas, see, I guess you're just not as sold on LSU as everyone else, which, that Vegas tends to be more right than not, but it doesn't mean that they're always right. Dustin, anything else before we get out of here? Great little sneaky little slate here for week 11.
Yeah, no, let's go get some Hardee's and plant it on the couch. Let's do it.
I'm going to the gym. I normally work out before this show. I didn't have time this morning to do a few things, so I'm going as soon as we lock up. Then I may have some Hardee's. I don't know. I've been trying to eat a little healthier, so I might skip the Hardee's this week. For Dustin Franklin, I am Mike Settle. We will catch you next time on Lateral.